Well, thank you for coming here tonight to the University of St. Thomas Opus College of Business's Intersections event. I'm Aaron Bursler with the Constam Communications PR firm, welcoming you to the very first Intersections event, the inaugural event, so you can all consider yourself to be early adopters of what we hope will be a meaningful program moving forward. A couple of notes before we get started. For those of you who have your day planners or your iPads or your iPhones and want to be plugging in dates for the subsequent events in this series, I will give those to you really quickly, and these helpful cards that are on the outside are things that you could pick up on your way out. The events are all on Thursdays, all at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. with the start time for this event, so if this time works for you now, that should carry forward into the winter and the spring as we get going. So February 9th is the next event, March 8th after that, and April 26th. So we'll take a little bit of a reprieve throughout the holidays and through the January interim month, and then get back going on February 9th. Do remember that if you're attending to register online, it's crucial that you register online, and the address for that is www.stthomas.edu/business/events. Again, I think that information is on this card for you on the way out. A quick note about our format today is that it's all discussion-based. It's all rooted in dialogue, which is sort of unique and fun. A distinguished scholar here at St. Thomas basically has a conversation with a talented executive, and we get the pleasure of eavesdropping in on that conversation and hearing their thoughts on a given subject. But we do have our opportunity to be able to chime in and contribute some thoughts, and there's a couple different ways that we can do that. One, I know many of you on the way in probably grabbed a little piece of paper, and so as topics come up, as questions come into your mind of things that you would like to ask our speakers or our dialoguers, feel free to write those down. So, and then we'll have people that will be picking those up and turning those in to be asked later on in the event. In short, if a question comes to mind, just jot it down and we'll pick it up later. And if you're not patient enough for that, the other way that you can do that is through Twitter. And so we've created a special hashtag for this event that we invite and encourage you to chime in and voice your thoughts, perspectives, retweet any pearls of wisdom that might come today as well. And so that hashtag is hashtag OCB intersections, all one word. So feel free to use that. Last but not least, I want to invite, and you can also tweet in your questions, I should mention as well. So if you have questions and you don't have a piece of paper, but you have a Twitter account that you have access to, feel free to just tweet them in. I want to introduce, last but not least, Avinash Malshi as our moderator today. He is an associate professor of marketing here at the Opus College. Dr. Malshi teaches at the MBA level. He trains executives, he consults businesses, and he is an accomplished scholar whose research specialties include things that are very relevant to today's discussion, things like managerial perspectives on marketing strategy and the interface between marketing and sales, so I think it'll be really relevant here. Much of the work that he does explores the dynamics affecting businesses' strategic processes and outcomes, and it seeks to offer managers practicable solutions for improvement. With that, please help me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Avinash Malshi.
Thank you, Aaron, and good evening, everybody. Let me add my own welcome to each one of you to the Opus College of Business at the University of St. Thomas. And it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here with these two great individuals and being able to listen to their perspectives and thoughts on marketing issues of importance for today's managers as well as academics. Since Aaron introduced me, I'm not going to spend time introducing myself again, but I want to introduce the two gentlemen sitting here. On my right, we have Mr. Mark Addicks. Welcome, Mr. Addicks.
Thank you.
As most of you know, Mr. Addicks is the Chief Marketing Officer and the Senior Vice President at General Mills. And in this role, he has the responsibility for the company's marketing operations in terms of its global brand building as well as marketing communication activities. In addition to that, he also has responsibilities for licensing as well as multicultural initiatives that General Mills has and General Mills engages in. Prior to his current role, Mr. Addicks has worked with Yoplait, as well as he has been instrumental in successfully developing new product development efforts, including Frosted Cheerios. So those of you who like Frosted Cheerios, you know who to thank.
Thank you, yeah.
Mr. Addicks has been widely recognized in marketing field, and Advertising Age named him as one of the top 100 marketers in 1999, as well as one of the top 25 power brokers in both 2003 and 2004. And here's a little known fact. Many of you don't know this, but Mr. Addicks actually taught at the University of St. Thomas in the evening MBA program many years ago. So welcome back, Mr. Addicks.
Thank you very much.
And we are very glad that you're here. I also want to introduce to you Dr. Christopher Puto. Dr. Puto, as many of us know, is the Dean of the Opus College of Business, and he also holds the Opus Distinguished Chair in Marketing at the Opus College of Business in the University of St. Thomas. Prior to joining St. Thomas, Dr. Puto was the Dean of the McDonald School of Business at Georgetown. And during his tenure at Georgetown, the MBA program at Georgetown was ranked the 22nd top MBA program and actually made it to the national rankings for the first time under his leadership. Prior to coming to Georgetown, Dr. Puto was the Associate Dean of the MBA program at University of Arizona, and prior to that, he was the marketing faculty member at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Dr. Puto is an accomplished marketing scholar. His areas of research expertise include marketing strategy, managerial behavioral decision-making, as well as marketing communication. And his work has been published in the top 3 marketing journals, including Journal of Marketing, Journal of Marketing Research, and Journal of Consumer Research. Dr. Puto also has a significant amount of managerial experience prior to his academic career. And the most notably, for those of you who are familiar with Burger King, I'm sure you remember Have It Your Way campaign that Burger King had, and Dr. Puto was instrumental in creating and developing that campaign. So, Dr. Puto, welcome to this conversation. And I'm going to get directly into the discussion by launching the first question at Mr. Addicks. And if you could help us start the conversation by talking about what is the role of a CMO in a CPG company like General Mills, and what are some of the strategic and tactical challenges that a person in your role encounters in today's day and age?
Okay, I'll start with that. Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be back here, and I saw some students I had when I was here, so it was a great experience. I learned a ton when I was here. I learned more from my students than they probably learned from me. In my role as Chief Marketing Officer at General Mills, and I'm actually the first one, we had up to that point been a very decentralized company. We have a well-worn brand management system, and it's built on something we believe in even more strongly today, and that is you take very talented marketers, and at General Mills, we believe marketers should have the P&L, the general management side, as well as the strategic side. They have their responsibility for the brand, how it's positioned, where it should go, the innovation that should make that brand purposeful and meaningful in the brand champion or the target's life. We build an entrepreneurial team around those folks. We want them to compete with each other and compete broadly, but we're a very collaborative working environment. And my role as a CMO is to help fuse those folks with the best support systems, the best practices across our businesses globally, as well as the best practices externally, and support them with the training, the development, and kind of build the marketing community so that we are literally leveraging each other and leveraging our scale as fast as we can, as fast as the consumer wants to engage in the marketplace. So that's what we do. What that means practically is I'm usually a collaborative partner on some of the strategies. When people are doing well, I usually don't see them very much. When we're having problems, that's when I'm usually involved. And tactically, what it means is you're looking at things like ROIs and ways to think about some of our tactics, and are we spending the right amount on advertising or incentives? Should we be doing more in digital? Blah, blah, blah. All those kind of very tactical questions that usually boil down to what's the brand, what's its purpose or mission, who's it for, and fundamentally, who's that consumer that is at the heart of the brand, and that's usually where we always try to start.
So as a CMO, what are some of the strategic decisions that you're involved in on a day-to-day basis, and what are the challenges that a role like that entails?
Different levels of strategic decisions that have been really fun to be involved in. Sometimes it's on the brand level, so it's helping a brand team think through, where should we go with the brand? Is there another kind of open field of innovation? Should we take the brand that's in one category and move it into adjacent categories? We have built various models, try to have the best tools that are available to all our marketers digitally and in our training programs. So we look at line extension, brand expansions, new businesses, and we have a model. So I'm involved in those kind of brand strategic decisions. But on a second level, sometimes we're involved on kind of bigger platforms where we see food trends going. So they can be around health and food, specifically around health states and food, so weight management, the like. Sometimes they can be around strategic partners. So we're living in a really fascinating age where we're starting to sometimes collaborate with people that we used to compete with, or could be General Mills and a Procter & Gamble and going together in a digital initiative. So some of those strategic questions, as well as who we partner with in other ways, so a Google, a Facebook, and the like. Does that help? Yeah.
A question to Dr. Puto. From an academic standpoint, there is a lot of literature on the idea of brand and brand management. Could you speak to the idea of a brand from an academic perspective so that we understand it a little more?
I'll give it a shot, Avinash. As I was listening to Mr. Addicks talk about the role of the CMO, it's even an evolving role. He's the first one at General Mills to hold this position, and it didn't exist before you got it. And yet there was a lot of marketing going on in General Mills.
Yep.
I guess Steve Stanger thought he might have been the old CMO.
Well, he probably was, actually.
He's a former CEO. But there's differing roles in this in terms of where the CMO fits in the organization. In some non-consumer products companies, the CMO is the line manager in charge. All the sales report to her or him, as well as the brands. And in a larger, more diverse company, you have a much more broader responsibility in terms of making the connections across all the units and getting them the right kind of support. With regard to the brands, when we think of what is a brand, every one of us in the audience, I'm sure, has an idea. If somebody says, what's a brand? You think of the logo that represents the brand image. You think of the name that represents the brand. But actually, the brand is a set of characteristics that are unique to either a product, a service, an organization, a place, or an experience. And that set of experiences is such that it allows your brain to accumulate a wealth of information about that item, the brand, the service, the product, the service, without having to spit it all out. It's all in your mind. It's psychologically, we talk about how many things can we remember, and typically you can remember 6 or 7 things, give or take 1 or 2. And yet, when you talk about a brand, that one word that represents the brand in your mind then calls all these others to it. And the key thing about the brand is, how does it gain power? And when you have shared experiences across a large group in the market, then that brand has increased its power, and power has a lot to do. And we'll talk later about distribution and what that means in the channels in the marketplace. But understand what the brand is. It's this concept of ideas that represent either a product, a service, an experience that brings all these things together and allows you to compress them in your own mind so that you know what it is.
Thank you. Mr. Addicks, from a managerial standpoint, how does General Mills look at brands, and what role do brands play in your overall marketing activities?
Brands are absolutely, for what we do as a consumer marketing company, they're absolutely central to everything we do. So, we always say people don't really buy General Mills stock. What they're buying is they're buying Green Giant, Cheerios, Pillsbury, Lucky Charms, and all of these brands. And so brands, are first and foremost the number one thing we concentrate on, we think about. They're the equity that we measure. How we think about them from a standpoint is we constantly measure kind of we try to measure where the brand is at any given time with the broader consumers as well as the target. We look at things like word of mouth recommendation, experiences. We're absolutely relentless in looking at the product experience. So that's something that I would say has been a hallmark of General Mills. And I can tell you, as somebody who used to manage all the Cheerios business, it can be very intricate. And it's really probably one of the fun parts of the job. But on a weekly basis, you will look at the product in such detail, down to, in the case of a Cheerios, how fast it dissolves, because that's part of the trust of the brand. A lot of infants eat it for the first time, so that's a concern. We look at how many fines are in the bag. We're absolutely relentless about the quality and the product experience, so that's a big, big deal. But beyond that, we try to look at the strength of the brand, where it's going, look at it, and it's set. So we'll look at a Yoplait versus Dannon. We'll try to understand what those choices are, and I would say in the last few years, we've expanded those choices, less just category, but where we know somebody's trading off a Yoplait experience, not just against Dannon, but maybe against some other choices that they would have eaten on that meal occasion, and more in the home and out of the home. So we're trying to get a really good sense of how meaningful is the brand, because if you just follow market shares and the like, your business can be pretty healthy for a while, and then, and this has happened to me, it falls off. What we're trying to do is see those early signs when the brand isn't resonating, and there might be a new entrance in the marketplace, there might be something that you haven't caught. The brand's less relevant in the larger consumer context.
Okay. Could you talk about the challenges that are involved in creating and implementing a brand strategy? Because in headquarters, companies can create great strategies, but when it comes to implementing them in the marketplace, there could be challenges. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, and tell me if I get to the heart of the question. I think we always start with the consumer, and so if we're going to create a brand like you've done as well, we always start, and we do kind of very theoretical. We look at the marketplace through a consumer's eyes. We actually segment the marketplace, not in a traditional way, but through how that consumer consumes. So we will do the kind of segment less about ready-to-eat cereal and more about breakfast choices, and we'll try to get the size of each opportunity, and we try to identify white space. And in the case of a new brand, you literally measure the size of the white space, and then once you've just found where you're going to play, then you start to go in and kind of figure out the specifics, the nuances of what that brand, who it's for, what its purpose is, and I would say in today's term, increasingly what the brand stands for, how it's going to fulfill on that, what's the total experience that the brand's going to deliver, what social cause is the brand going to be part of, and then we go into the more finer aspects, some of the creative fun aspects of actually all the other elements. Once you get past where it's going to play and where the brand's going to be positioned, who it's for, the purpose on that, you get into things that get into the brand experience, the visual brand experience, the design experience. So designing the product and the experience there, as well as things like the visual imprint, the font, the colors, all those things are critically important, especially in the consumer marketplace. I mean, it's really powerful. You can do so much of that right, and I've made this mistake several times, but I, in one case, worked on a brand years ago, very new, only to find out that we had gone out with literally the wrong shade of purple on the color and made an adjustment in market and saw it change. And it was just based on consumers who, when they saw it, were confused because of the shade of purple we had used. So you can do almost everything right, and then all the way out to the execution. If you're not, you don't do that, you're going to have a problem. Today, in a weird way, it's much easier because we're iterating and doing those things, co-creating with consumers. A lot more in the old world that a lot of us grew up in. You're doing it in focus groups. It's very expensive. You're creating the boxes and the product and going back and forth. Today, we do that many times co-creatively. Sometimes the concept and some of the creative aspects we will do in a 36-hour, 24-hour period, interactively using social media. It's pretty fun.
Well, one of the interesting things that I'd like to relate to in Mr. Addicks' comment, you heard him use the word experience half a dozen times in this. And that's, in practical sense, relatively new in terms of how we relate to your consumers. And that it's not the physical characteristics as much, we think that's the piece of it, but actually it's what those do and what they mean and how they impact your experience with it. Because when you go to repurchase it, you're recreating the experience you had either through the ad that you thought you were going to get when you bought it or when you had the product. And just a minute to explain, we talk about theory and practice, and you heard Mr. Addicks use the word theory right off the start. The way knowledge gets transferred is a back and forth process between the real world and the academic world. Professors do research, and companies don't really pay a lot of attention to professors' research.
I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
Sometimes they'll hire a professor to do some very specific research, but when a professor gets it published in a journal, and then only professors read these journals, but the professors that read these journals are also the professors that write textbooks. And they read the journal, and they see something that's interesting, then they create a textbook that's out of 1,000 journal articles. And then the textbooks get used in the classrooms, and they get used in executive sessions and things like that. And students learn that, and then they bring that into the real world. At the same time, professors go out in the real world and watch and listen and question what they do. And there's this wonderful interface. So when we talk about products, there's a famous professor named Jim Bettman who did his dissertation research actually following consumers around a drugstore and watching them buy and asking them questions about why they were doing it, because nobody really knew what was driving it and what it was. And that began his research on how consumers make buying decisions, and that it's not nearly as practical and quantitative as we all think it is. So that's how this fits back and forth.
But we really do use we look at a lot of research. We do work with academicians. Some of the ways, just most recently, we were looking, there's some great research. David Ocker,
Yes.
from University of California has done some really interesting stuff on if you're a first mover creating a new category, and pretty undeniable how long you will have the #1 spot in the marketplace. That's really instructive if you're a marketer do we fast follow? Do we go out in the market now? Some of that research is powerful. I think we were down to very practical things. We're very much involved in the decision every night of what's for dinner. And every single night, what we call a whole new day part has happened, where literally in 3 humps over the day, if you look online, people go out to research the question, what's for dinner tonight? 8 o'clock in the morning to 9, then the people around noon, that's the biggest bulge, and then the people you really don't want to know around 4 o'clock who are racing out of their office. But there's some powerful research is kind of walking through that process, not just observation, but emotionally, and what's really happening, and some really powerful marketing things. So how many sources does usually she check if she's typing in spaghetti and meatballs? Is it 1, is it 2, is it 3? What does that tell you about your food content? Where do you need to be? What are the search words that are commonly around this? Those kind of things.
And did you hear this? He used another fancy word, online. 8 years ago, nobody was online. They were in line, maybe, waiting on something, but nobody was online. And now all of a sudden, here it is. They do their search online, and you use this data. You track this in various ways to see what's going on.
We look at it really closely, and we are lucky because we are, and one of our strategies is to be a top 5 food content provider, right? So we're the only non-media player. So we do it with 6 sites, bettycrocker.com, which is for more experienced, little older kids, a little more, sometimes from scratch, a little more objective. Pillsbury.com, which is more like assembly, cooking, younger kids. Box Tops for Education, first family ritual around dinner. Want to have family dinner once your kid's in kindergarten. Tablespoon.com, millennials, different kind of social, different sharing. Eat Better America, boomers. Que Rica Vida, Hispanics. And those summed will do like over 150 million uniques. And if you go to General Mills today, we have very Google-like screens that are set up that'll tell you at any second what's being searched, where in the country, how many people are online, because we will do hundreds of thousands of people. And that is, what's great about the digital world and the social world is now you have this rich amount of research that comes at you all the time. And so, at the nadir of the recession was really fascinating. Ahead of what you're reading in the newspaper, we saw a huge drop, and then top 10 recipe searches all became Bisquick. Bisquick is a huge, great utilitarian product. You can make pancakes, you can make anything with it. It was way ahead of what you read in the newspaper. And so we see trends now, and we're trying to be smart and learn, and then apply those quickly across the business. This is what consumers are doing, this is what they're saying. This is what they're combining. So that's a really powerful kind of engine for us at this point. But we do look at a lot of research. We do, the new world we're going into is more of a marriage with academicians at this point.
There's a nice interplay back and forth. One of the other words that you heard Mr. Addicks use was word of mouth. And in the old days, word of mouth was gossip that happened across the backyard fence or on the way to carpools or things like that. And now all of a sudden, word of mouth, I think, has just taken over in the space on blocks. So could you talk a little bit about this concept of, I'll use the buzzword, mommy blogs?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have I want to be careful how I say that. We have a network of bloggers. It's one of the largest, called My Blog Spark. And our brands will use it, but other brands use it. Yep. And it's done fully with all the guidelines and everything. But it's one of the many ways at General Mills we build scale in how we go to market sometimes. And our brands can use it and other brands can use it. But, to stand all the way back, one of the big things we're doing right now as a company is it's a really critical time with digital and social. And we have an initiative called the Modern Campaign, where we've gone out, we best practice some folks like Ford and under Jim Farley, a number of people, and we're seeing a different kind of campaign, the way you think about a campaign than when I came into General Mills. The level of pre-buzz, borrowing a lot from the movie models that go on, because consumers are living in a different world, and so hearing things ahead of time signal to your brain that this is probably important and I'm gonna pay attention when I actually see it delivered to me. Much like your movie models, you see trailers, you see stories about songs and singers that are part of that movie and the like. So a lot of the industry has borrowed that, but we look at engage, convert, reward. So how do you engage them? How do you convert them to a purchase? And then how do you reward them or turn them into advocates? And what's powerful is those used to be very distinct, and now they can happen in one interaction. I see this, I like this, I'm interested in heart health. Oh, I can go into a Cheerios plan. That's really cool, that's funny, I can send that to my friends. I just engage, convert, and turn myself into an advocate, all in one fell swoop. So we're evolving our models, but we call that the Modern Campaign. And a big piece of that, of each of those stages, is what we call earned media, which is word of mouth, which is the model is flipping. PR is very, very important. People really are believing that if I tell you and recommend something to you, it really has a huge credibility. So we're seeing that in our world, and some of the most interesting creative is how you start to get your brand in a conversation.
Absolutely, and this is a neat part of 21st century marketing. General Mills, I think all of us should know, we believe it and know it, is one of the most upstanding and finest honorable companies in the nation and I believe the world. And they are way out in front in terms of ethical practices and things. So this doesn't apply to them, but it's a great example that people have to deal with. And that has to do with, so the person who's the word of mouth, when you use an actor, a real actor who's paid money for this, everyone knows they're a spokesperson and
Sure.
they got paid money. When somebody's off blogging, the question is, why are they touting this product and this? And many, so the question is, do you compensate the blogger to get this going or not? And there's a lot of laws that have been passed. The Federal Trade Commission has stepped in and said you have to disclose this if they're getting any compensation. And there was a real concern among some companies who weren't compensated or who didn't have it noticed that if we disclose that these bloggers are being compensated by us, then their credibility is going to go down and we're going to lose the impact of all this. And where am I going with this? Two of our professors, Dr. Lisa Abendroth and Dr. James Heyman, were curious as to what happens when you disclose that you're getting compensated. And so they've done an experiment with subjects who were real consumers and tested with bloggers information that they either were told, yes, I received a free case of this soap detergent or whatever, and I'm telling you from the company, and it's good and I like it and all this stuff, versus I used it, I didn't get a free case, I don't say a word, and I just say I use it and all this. It turns out that second part is now against the law, but catching the perpetrators is non-trivial and all that. A company like General Mills is way up front. Their people say this. Here's what our researchers found. The preference for the brand goes up when the blogger announces that they were compensated to say this. All of a sudden, the consumer says, I trust this now. This is not a game. They're real. They were up front with me. And they wouldn't be using it just because they got it for free. They're using it and talking about it because it's real. So the preference, actually goes up. And it's a neat finding in academic research that blends with what you were doing already. But it gives you a lot of reinforcement that you were doing the right thing.
Yeah. When we started, before the FTC guidelines, we required it. Mm-hmm. We do those kind of things. But what was very interesting is, at first, kind of marketers kind of freaked out because they were like, they're going to tell them, and we sent the product, and they can rate my product. And of course, if you have a great product experience, you probably shouldn't be worried about that.
Absolutely.
So it's just the new world we live in. And in fact, you want consumers and everyone to talk in their own language, to talk very authentically about their brand experience, and listen to it, and then change it if it needs to be better.
Absolutely. Dr. Malsh, you
we're
want to be
beginning
back?
to receive questions, and one question has just come through Twitter, and the question is, in this day of social media, how does a company like General Mills protect its brands against negative, inaccurate, viral messages?
Oh my God, that's a great question. So I can't even tell you. So I'll tell you how we protect our brands. So we have a great team, and we have really been building out our social media teams. But we have a great team, and we have built, unique to General Mills, we have a monitoring system. It's 24/7. It's set up with folks, and so we actually look constantly across all of our brands and stream, and so things come in, and they can be global, and they come in from various sources, and we have a team that we respond 24/7. What's really powerful and what's really been kind of different, and I will tell you, especially in the last couple of months, there was one week where every day was a pretty big social media crisis. And this is true. I was with my son at the Apple store, and we were looking at a Apple iPad or something, and he was looking at it, and we were waiting to be helped, and I went online just to check my emails, and literally I just saw all these emails come into my email. It turned out to be over 10,000 people signed an online petition and just shut, to me, to the chairman, we're angry about this, and I could, it's just like, and by the time the person came to help us, I was freaked out. I was like, it's okay, I don't need to buy an iPad. I've got to go home, I don't know what to do, But we caught it and did it. But that week, I think we had one every single day, and now we have them all the time. We just had one yesterday, on our Facebook page, really big one for, which I'm trying to remember, Pillsbury. Somebody said Pillsbury, the guy who was Michael Jackson's doctor, MSNBC is going to do a special on him, and they said Pillsbury's an advertiser on MSNBC. all these Michael Jackson haters who suddenly came on the Pillsbury Facebook thing in droves. And so, and we were just looking at this today. It worked. I mean, our person literally within minutes said, by the way, we don't advertise on MSNBC on this one. We make a program by program choice. We're not going to be advertising on this, and adjusted our comments as more comments came in. So that's kind of how we set up and we're doing this, but you constantly learn, you respond. We had a situation 3 weeks ago in the world of marketing where one of our brand teams put up some videos on YouTube. I had never even seen them. I knew about the strategy, but it was kind of, I saw the videos, and that was another one where they just came flying across my phone. So I go online and start seeing this online petition come on. And so I go to YouTube. I didn't even know what they were. And I look at it and I said, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's totally, why did we do that? That was gratuitous humor. And so just really quickly, we just pulled it off, did it. So you're going to have to make decisions on the spot. You have to respond. Your brand is always on. So you've got to be always on. If you're not there, then they're having that conversation without you. It's really super dangerous if you're a consumer brand. So, I think pretty much every consumer brand needs to have a social media strategy at this point.
Yes, it does.
If any members of the audience have questions, feel free to pass them to me, and then I'll pose this to our panelists here. And as I receive questions, the question to you is, marketing and ROI, return on investment in marketing, is a big question that has been asked for, and from academic literature, we know that people have been talking about it for the last 30, 35 years, and it's becoming an important question today. So how do you look at it, and what parameters do you use to evaluate the ROI in marketing?
We are trying to look at ROIs by touch point, and being able to isolate them, so to understand what did you get for a satellite media tour, what did you get for a Facebook event or posting, what did your TV do? So we look at ROIs. What I would tell you, since I'm from a marketing perspective, what I think is happening in the world right now, this is another example of academic research that we looked at. We think about moms a lot, and a study we looked at about 10 years ago talked about the way moms in the late 90s kind of thought about their morning, and they would wake up in the morning, they would turn on Today at Good Morning America or Katie Couric, and their sole thing was to kind of say, is the world safe? Is everything going? Then they'd wake up their children and they would kind of start this routine, and that was like mom, CEO of the household. Today, through a lot of research what we know is that close to 40 to 50% of them have actually been online during the sleep period. They have checked their phone or they've been on Facebook. They're really these certain individuals that actually 15% of them actually do both, which is a little scary. And they wake up, and now what they do is they actually turn on like about 5 or 6 touch points. So they're kind of managing a mass communication system, and then they bring everybody else into it. What that does as a marketer to me says, and you can, a lot of this, just check your own gut and your own life, is they are constantly sorting during the day. They're constantly saying there's like 3 things I can pay attention to. So, for brands in the old interruption world, throwing you a message that's nice to know, there's no way they're going to remember it. And you can have a great ROI and whatever you want to have. It's not going to work. Their question that helps them sort is, why are you on my list, and what do I have to do with that now? So what's for dinner gets on that list at 8 or 12 or 4. So you either attach your brand, sometimes very topically, to what are the questions, or make sure your creative, your messaging is very aperture focused. Where, when, and how is almost as important as the what today, and that's different from when I started. And make sure that it's very, very breakthrough. So that's the scary thing about ROI, because now you can look at campaigns and say, wow, it did great, it had a great ROI. But increasingly, what's different and fun is consumers are starting to pay attention to what's different. Have I seen it before? Does it break through in a new way? And we're watching them, again, observing. We do a lot of observing. I mean, and you know this from your own life. I know this from mine is, banner ads can become invisible. Consumers immediately, and certainly as you go down the age range, are adopting things, understanding that you're trying to advertise to them, and not even seeing some of it ever again. So the first time's going to be powerful. The first dove for real beauty online is going to be really powerful. The next one, not so much. So what it means for us as marketers is we still have to be really strong analytically, strong strategically, understand the principles of marketing. But you're going to have to be much more agile, a lot more creative, which should be fun if you love marketing, and a lot more intuitive and fast, super fast. So that's the world. So ROIs, we're looking at them. They certainly should guide us, but you got to be so careful. There are a lot of people in our building, outside our building, that will just say, the ROI on that is X. TV is an ROI of X, and you're like, every TV? Not really. That doesn't make any sense, Radio usually has a low ROI. We just did radio for Totino's Pizza. It's an incredible ad. It's very funny, great theater of the mind, and I think the ROI was like, multiple dollars. So it depends. It really is creative. Is it true to the brand? How's it focused? But that's where the fun part is, the creative breakthrough. Is this new? Is this fresh? Why am I paying attention to this now? Which is really what everybody's asking, because they have so many inputs coming to them, and they're managing so much more. So the threshold for us is a lot higher.
I think there's an interesting corollary to that in terms of academic research. So back in the day, consumers used to have shortcuts that they would use. They were always bombarded with information, but it was usually just in the store or just in one medium, and they would shortcut it into heuristics that would eliminate certain elements and get down to the key facts. Now what's happening is there are multiple sources of information, multiple channels of information, and one of the next interesting things is going to be how do I sort through that? And mark my words, you'll hear there's an app for that.
Yep.
And somebody will figure out a way to feed all these different things into an iPad, and they'll punch this, and it will do the filtering.
Of course.
And that's, then the challenge is, all of a sudden it's gone out of the consumer's mind and into this machine, and how do we keep this machine from gatekeeping us out through some arbitrary filter? That's going to be a real challenge, and I think academic research will start to look at that and be able to give insights to the real world about that.
And that's why I really think, a lot of times people say, like, God, the digital world, the social world, are brands going to matter that much? Now it's so transparent, you can rate them. I take the strong position brands are going to matter more.
You're right.
Because, it's innate in our kind of human DNA to, when confronted with chaos, to try to sort and try to segment and try to understand. And so really, if you look at some of the business results, you're seeing consumers actually engage with a brand and follow it now across more categories. And, like one of our brands, Fiber One, used to be just a cereal brand. It used to be about 40 million in sales, and now there's several hundred millions of sales across a lot of categories because consumers lock in, they engage, they become advocates, and they follow.
And there's no cardboard in there.
No cardboard in there. No, it's great taste. But they, thank you.
I listened
that
to
line
your
stuck.
ads.
Okay. But I think, the other thing is right now, and this will be interesting for me to watch. I keep saying to our teams that we will see consolidation, and we're kind of starting to see it. There used to be 1 million digital ad networks, so this is the scale side of the business. Now you're starting to see that consolidate. I love to always go back. To me in marketing, everything old is new again in a new form. The truth about radio into TV was, for a long time, TV was pretty much the Wild West, and it took about 7 years for all the experimentation. TV, Colgate Palmolive Hour, we did Rocking Bullwinkle cartoons, manufacturers are creating content, lots of people were doing things, and in about 7 to 8 years it became 3 networks. Mm-hmm. And it organized, consolidated, and here's the easy way, and you buy these pieces. I think it'll be faster and more often, but you're going to see things consolidate because businesses will need to have a way to engage, and consumers will have a need to sort and segment. So,
are you comfortable, and you may not be, sharing this piece? Back in the day, and I'm the oldest one in the room, so I think I know way back in the day, print media used to go on CPM, cost per thousand.
Yes.
And you could translate the 1,000 viewers into what ultimately would be sales for a persuasive ad. And then when we got to TV, it was gross rating points, GRPs.
Yeah.
When the web, when computers first came out, it was eyeballs and then it's clicks. Have you found a way that you can actually relate exposure through these various electronic media into some expectation of market share?
Yeah, I mean, general, what I'll tell you, and I'm just learning. We've got incredible people, but there's a couple of things that make this job really fun and just make marketing so much more fun. And I would say, what you can do on the web today, what the beauty for marketers with consumers' permission, is you can start to identify what are we call them HVTs, or high value tasks. So if I want you to buy this for dinner, convince you that this is the dinner you want to have, and go through and buy these products, a marketing job, very different from when I started today, is to look at all the different things they might do online and eventually figure out that this task is worth that. So if I search for a recipe, if I stayed on that recipe for this long, my link to purchase is that much higher. If I print a coupon, it's that much higher. This is that much higher. So you can start to understand the power of each touch point and be more predictive and know what's important. So that's pretty powerful. The other thing is, again, with consumers, permission, and if they've signed up, and a lot of our consumers participate, like really by hundreds of thousands participate. They write recipes for us, they rate recipes for us, they look at videos. They love a lot of the engagement, the activity. You have incredibly rich data analytics, and we're finally getting to the promise of all the textbooks in year 2000 to that one-to-one.
Yes.
Where you're getting to say, once I've engaged with you, I know Mark Addicks has searched this many times. This is what he's written. He always misspells popovers, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's very much like direct marketing marrying consumer marketing. And and what's good about that is, first of all, you do have to be ethically responsible. You got to be super careful. Absolutely. You should have people's permission. The powerful thing about that is you can start to really be helpful and really predictive. So if I know that you typically always search at 4, happens to always be Thursday, and it's pretty much always spaghetti, why don't I start serving you that up? And then based on my knowledge, because I'm a marketer and I care and I'm trying to be in service of you, I know that you don't want to serve the same spaghetti dish every week, that you want it to be a little different because it's part of what you're trying to do, so your family notices, you have a conversation. How can you make that special? Happen to know it's February and not November, how you feel about food at that time. Then I'm going to offer you up some different things that allow you to be kind of a hero, surprise, delight your family. So you can actually take this marketing thing and be in much better service to people, right? Be much more predictive. There's some real permission ways where people start to say, I will tell you our birthdays and my child's birthday, and I can surprise and delight you and send to you, your 6-year-old daughter's about to have a birthday. We're just guessing because we know this based on our database. From Betty Crocker, we're in millions of searches of the different types of birthday parties. It's probably a princess cake, I'm thinking. Or it's this character, or it's this character. Gotcha. It's a boy. 4, dinosaur cake, pretty much. And you start to serve these things up and say, and I kind of think I know because I'm a marketer, knew 20 years ago that you're a professional, stressed, trying to be everything, do your very best, and at this particular moment, it's like, please help me have the best party for my child. Can you help me do that? And now we can help her do that.
Yes. So here's the concept. Academically, we're talking about marketers create value for consumers. And the more value you create, then the more opportunity it is to share that value between the marketer and the consumer. And so as what you're just described was a way that consumer experience with the brand has been enhanced significantly because they've then had a much better birthday experience for their child as a result of this. So there's more value there. Therefore, they'll be more often willing to go back and get more.
Yeah, I mean, you've created a memory, you're part of their routine, But you know, like this happens to be, this week is the 90th birthday of Betty Crocker. We just had a big party for Betty Crocker, and we actually had thousands of people participate in an online contest of what would the Betty Crocker party be, and really elaborate suggestions. And we brought in 10 people. They happened to all be women from around the country, and the ages ranged from 24 to 60 plus, and mostly around the 24 level. And but what's interesting about that is, you know, Betty Crocker actually was the first social brand. Mm-hmm. In the early 50s, we were getting 5,000 to 6,000 letters a day at Golden Valley. We actually had a staff up to 10 people who all they did was answer those letters, and then try to think of something fresh and new that they could send along the way, start to sum the comments like, I bet I could tell her this, and this would be great. That's all we're doing today online.
With technology.
Just doing it with technology, where it's the same task, just trying to be of service.
Mm-hmm. Build value.
Yeah.
If I can get one more question from the audience. We have a lot of students here in our audience, and so one of the questions is, when you think about data and numbers, one often thinks about finance. But now with the increasing importance of ROI and measurement, do you feel that people with data and numerical skills and analytical skills, I mean, will marketing be moving in that particular direction from simply being a creative discipline? And so do you see more role for people with these skills in marketing?
It's really interesting because, I mean, I think for us marketing, there's always been a big creative element, and it's been great, but I'm looking at some of my peers who started with me. I mean, there used to be kind of like analytical jocks, and that's how they got the, you know, rose up the system because they could do the spreadsheets and everything. Then over time, they're software programs, right? And so I would actually argue the world we're entering is, and there was, I can't remember if it's McKinsey Quarterly or Harvard Business Review or who knows what. There's several articles being written now about the level of data that's coming at you, and it's the data analytics. It's a level of data analysis that, yes, mostly systems will do and serve up, but you're going to be getting these sometimes on a daily read of, this is what happened with your brand last night, this is what they clicked on, this is what they followed all those tasks through and actually purchased. This is, what does that tell you? And that will change because the consumer always changes, right? And so you're going to have to be very comfortable with data, almost like direct marketers. But then the flip of that is, you know, what I said earlier. It's going to be, what's the idea? How breakthrough? Is this new? You're going to do more intuitively. You're not going to go out and check and say, does this look right, this photograph with this logo, this headline? You're going to be doing that, and we are in many ways doing it on the fly today. Throwing it out there, getting a reaction, oh, change that. Oh, that's a better idea. I mean, you have no idea how many times consumers say, why did you say it like that? It should be this. And you go, yep, should be. That's great. Thank you. You're right. I never thought of that. Okay.
Real quickly, while we're still talking about students and marketing at General Mills, could you describe a successful marketer in the environment in which you
Today, I mean, the roles continue. I mean, the roles changing, but you know, what I would say is this is how we tend to think, or I think, and I tell people this when they come in the door. They come in, you get assigned to a brand, and in our world, you're probably running that brand. It's still called an assistant marketing manager, but you're essentially a brand manager at most other places, and you're running the brand, P&L, and the strategy for the brand and everything. There's somebody over you, and so I tell people, you come in, know the history of the brand, know the history of the category. Look at it, look across it, know when the category was at its best, when the brand was at its best, understand the peaks, understand the valleys, become a historian, know the business, who purchases it, where they do it, what are the channels, what are the motivations, delve everywhere. And because you live, when you're managing a new person coming in, you live for that meeting when somebody asks a question and that person answers it before you do. And you go, that's right. They know this. Okay. They know that Cheerios peaked when we did this. They know that, you know, they know. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we tell them is to, you know, they then should be able to probably in the next 2 to 3 months craft a plan for the brand that's, builds in innovation, starts to direct where the brand can go, lead the teams, become good at that. And there's certain benchmarks we have internally. And really what I say, within your first, 9 to 12 months, what I really look for is, if I look at that business, is your personal DNA on it. It doesn't mean you had to come up with that idea. In fact, maybe somebody in your team, you listened differently, you collaborated differently. But is it different because you're there? Something different. And you could be the idea source, and you could have driven that, but you should see that soon in today's world, your imprint on a brand, because the beauty of General Mills and a lot of companies, P&G and legacy brands, and I probably Caribou, which has now been around for a long time, is as you study those brands, you see they're like sediments. The people come on and they leave their legacies and they stack up. And those are literally gifts from God, right? So the person came on and said, we could do a heart-shaped bowl on Cheerios. Because when I was first on Cheerios, it was like sacred. It's a glass bowl, it's got a strawberry here, the milk's up to here, and don't touch it, And you're like, and then it's, we're going to do heart during the heart health promotion. The woman who did it said, fell on a spear, like, this is what we're going to do, her DNA. And it was instantly popular, and people were worried, like, well, what will moms and toddlers say? Because are we signaling it's a heart brand? And of course, they all went like, oh, you're telling me, yeah, Cheerios, my heart to yours, yeah, love it. Nurture my child. So that's why there's a heart, and now that's sacred, right? So it'll be the next marketer that comes and says, let's do this with the brand, right? There's an O across on the I, little Cheerios. So there are these things that can become, they should be sacred, you should be smart about them, but they can be visual, they can be a thought, they can be a new market, they can be a new channel. But you should see the DNA of marketers over time, and that's really what's so cool, and that's what you try to inspire people to do.
Thanks, that's very helpful. Dr. Malshi.
Question from the audience is, what is the interface between marketing and R&D when you're trying to come up with new products?
Very, very close, super close. So the way, we're on the brand management system, so they're assigned, they're on a team with you, having done new products several times, really, really fun. We have incredible R&D folks that are over on Golden Valley, and they do have their own campus, but they're intricately involved in ours. You spend a lot of time in labs. You look at a lot of things. Sometimes it's incredibly creative. Like, we talk about things like mouthfeel, experiences, like eating it, looking at it, the colors, the taste. And so you look at hundreds of prototypes. You eat a lot of different things. But we're very lucky because, what a real powerful thing at General Mills historically is that, you can have an idea, you can think through conceptually, strategically. Our R&D people are there with us when we do it. Sometimes they see the idea before we do, and then they develop the product. And you work very closely with them. And it's, what's really fascinating, which I didn't know before I came into the job, is how nuanced it is. So slight different changes can change tremendously whether people want to eat it again, repeat it, and the like. Certainly children see with their eyes. There's just all kinds of fascinating things about signals that when we look at food, what we think, number of things. Certain things look more healthy than others. They may or may not be,
Helpful. And what are the challenges involved in working with R&D?
What are the challenges working with R&D? There haven't really been that many challenges. I mean, like any marketer, you just wish that they were, can we do it faster, right?
Maybe a little cheaper.
Because, faster and cheaper because you didn't take that science class. But I don't think I've ever really felt like there were challenges. I was talking a little bit about the quality control, which has been another big hallmark at General Mills. One of my favorite things as you really get into brands and how you manage them. So Cheerios, which was one brand I did, to give you a sense, probably giving away a little bit of information here, but we used to have a Monday meeting, and literally what we'd do is we would look at product from all our different plants that were pulled at different hours during the week. Then they ran certain standard tests on us and told us about them because that was the brand experience. We would look at the box. Do they all look the same? Is the printing the same? That's our printing suppliers. Then we would pull them off of store shelves all over the country. Those are shipped in. So it was really, I mean, you could have a really bad Monday. You would walk in and go like, oh my God, what happened? This is like a Texas wedding. There's like 4 different colors, you know? Or you'd walk in like, and you just see uniform. Everybody had a great Cheerios experience, and that's absolutely what you go for. But, you know, and so they're really big partners in that. And they're big partners in the sense we have tremendous people that are friends and worked with for years that are, you know, they're running that for you. So they're at the front line, and they'll say, you know, we had this thing on Thursday, but here's what I did. I took care of it. You know, because we're really guided around what's the brand about and what's that experience that delivers the promise of that brand, right? So everybody knows what that is. And part of what you do as a marketing team is keep defining that. And does that change as the consumer changes? And we put it on our documents, our branded documents. We do a thing called brand architecture. It's right there on the sheet. It's considered an asset of the brand. What are the fundamental things that must be in every experience?
Are you comfortable with talking at all about channel power and the concept? And so I'll
Depends
start.
on the question.
I'll start, and then you don't have to answer.
No, of course I will.
When the brand was the king in terms of visibility and things, one could go to a retailer and say, if you put your brand in our store, you're going to have more customers come to your store because of our brand, and you'll sell other things too because they're going to buy more than just our brand when they come. And there was a tremendous amount of asymmetry in terms of clout. And then some of the retailers, we have a big one right across the street from here. And
over there somewhere.
There's one a little farther west. And their comment is, wait a minute, I'm bringing these people into the store. You're lucky if your brand is in here because it's going to get exposed to them because of me. Is that dynamic? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, we talk about it a lot.
Well, I bet
that's
in the
why,
shop,
you know, and it depends on the type of brand. So there's certain brands that are part of occasion. And so the way we even market them is more about, let me help you answer this question, what's for dinner? And this brand happens to be a side dish, or you can imagine somebody being a napkin manufacturer or something like that. But a lot of our brands, we want them to be front and center and incredibly important. And we work very hard for this concept called brand champions. Who's the brand for? They must be loyal. They must be viral. They must be the absolute champion for the brand. And when you have a brand, and that's one of the earlier questions of one of the ways we rate the brand is understand where we're you know, what's the level of kind of the brand champion sentiment. And when we have brands that are doing very well and very strong, they command a lot of power, and people will go to a different store. They will, I mean, and there's some brands, I would be bold enough to say that, I mean, seriously, like, you kind of have to have Cheerios in your store. Mm-hmm. And we go and tell our partners that all the time. We work a lot with Target and Super Value and Walmart and everything. But, you know, there's pretty undeniable research that, again, this gets into the intricacies of shopping behavior. But, you know, you can do this tonight. Just walk into a store and watch consumers. And, you know, the world I live in is they'll walk on the cereal aisle and subconsciously find the yellow box, and that tells them where all the other boxes are, right? That's how they do it. My favorite is sometimes is just to watch people, and they literally walk by within 4 seconds on the aisle, and they go like into the basket. And you're like, wow, that was some brand power there. All that time we spent on that package, but over time, they really, you know, marketers like to think of they're all standing on every purchase and
reading
looking,
the down.
oh wow, there's now a cause, you know. That should be there. You should maximize every touch point, but you should be smart about what every touch point might do if you know your brand champion and the like. So we talk a lot about what brands they must have, where if they're really smart, and we show them a lot of data, and we show them tests we do, and we have virtual stores where we run consumers through, and sometimes we do it with real stores, and we say, you're holding the brands here, and they should be here, or these would be here. And that said, we're now entering a really interesting world where we're starting to see more e-commerce. So that's like a whole new frontier, and we'll see and we'll learn in that world how people shop and how they sort. One of the questions, which is an academic question, is, you know, as we migrated and retail power became really important, there's the famous Ted Levitt article, are you selling, are you marketing? And and there's a typical thing of, do you offer too many incentives, and what does that pricing strategy say about your brand? And I think it would be a very good question to us at General Mills of, you know, do you feel good about your pricing strategy? What do you think that's done to your brands? Was it smart or not? Those are the kind of things we ask ourselves all the time. The level of incentives, do they really bring in incremental people or not? You know, and you would probably not be surprised of how many times, whether it's General Mills brands or other brands, that we see that, you know, people do things and they don't realize how quickly they erode and wreck their brand equity and what that communicates.
How fast.
So pricing, you know, you should be doing that stuff very carefully.
Netscape is the greatest example.
Netflix.
Netflix.
Oh yeah, that was.
I did this when Gates was in the room too. I screwed up his software package. But the whole idea of what Netflix did with their pricing and what the damage that did to their brand and how they're trying to recover is huge. So very quickly, I think we, out of respect for the audience and Mr. Addicks' time,
This has been a very engaging discussion, and I hate to be the one to keep time and to stop this conversation, but I know we didn't get to many of the questions that you had, but we will post answers along with the video of tonight's event on the intersection pages online so that you can go to them and take a look at it later. At this point, I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Addicks.
Thank you.
To come here and share his insights. And I also want to thank Dean Puto for being here and being a conversation partner with Mr. Addicks. And thanks to and thank you all for being here and making this inaugural intersection event a big success. So thank you very much, and have a good night.
Did I say anything?